We're very fortunate to have with us today Larry Howard from the JFK Assassination Center. He is president, and he has been the chief advisor for over a year and a half in the production of the JFK movie that Oliver Stone has produced. And this will make its appearance next month, around December 15th. And I believe Dallas is the first place that it will be shown. So I bring Larry to the mic.
Thank you, Eleanor. First, I want to thank Dick for having me come to talk to you today. Dallas is a long way off, and if you'll excuse the Texas accent, I'll try to get through. I also like to thank Chris Howder, who's standing by the post over there. He's going to help me today with a presentation. The John F. Kennedy assassination is a very complex and complicated subject. It's not easy to follow or investigate. I have 3,000 square feet of area in Dallas where we have exhibits, bookstore, 40-seat theater. We have a research center and archives. If you were there, it'd be easier for me to do this. But what I've done, I've brought enough material with me. I think we can go over a small part of the case and show you some things that you may have seen before, and I have some things you've never seen before. So I really would like for you really not to believe anything I tell you. Is to look at what I brought and make up your own mind. It's like working for Oliver Stone. I furnished him with documents, films, books, and witnesses to the case. I think I actually furnished him 23 different witnesses, including Marina Oswald, and he could talk to them one-on-one, and he made up his own mind on what he thought about the movie and what it should be. And we try to stay away from theories. We try to deal with facts. The first thing I think we'll do is go up to the map of Dealey Plaza and kind of let you get familiar with how it was back in 1963. The motorcade came down Main Street and then made a right-hand turn on Houston going north, and then it made a left-hand turn on Elm, a 120-degree turn, which was against all Secret Service regulations. Should have never gone that way. In the Dallas Morning News, it was printed to go straight down Main Street and then cross the little median underneath the triple underpass and then on to the trademark where John Kennedy was going to speak. But for some reason, they took the turns, slowed the motorcade down, and actually ended up in the kill zone. Chris, if you'll point out where the first shots occurred. Approximately right there. That's when the first shot was fired, and the last shot was fired approximately right there in 5.5 seconds was the time from the first shot to the last shot. The reason we know the time span, a man named Abraham Zapruder and his secretary Marilyn Sisman were standing on a white pedestal by the pergola, and he had his movie camera that day. Matter of fact, he came to work. He worked in the Dowtex building across the street as a dress manufacturer, and he forgot his camera and left it at home. And Marilyn Sisman, his secretary, made him go home and get the camera, or we would not have this film today, and I wouldn't be talking to you, because the Zapruder film is one of the key evidence in the case on where the shots came from. So as he took and started panning the camera as the motorcade turned left on Elm Street, the motorcade comes down Elm, and then there's a Stemmons freeway sign that hides the car for about 1.5 seconds. And during this time span, that's when the first shot hit John Kennedy in the back. So when we go ahead and start the Zapruder film, the film I have is the clearest version that's ever been seen. It belonged to the House Select Committee when they investigated the case in '78, and I just obtained it about 2 months ago. There again, the motorcade, the policemen are in front. Then the car moves down. Kennedy's waving to the crowd to the right. He's shot here in the back. Then he's shot in the throat. And then John Connolly is shot, and then the head shot. And Jackie crawled out on the back of the car to pick up a piece of his skull that flew out on the trunk deck. Now, we were told that she crawled out trying to get out of the car, and that's not what happened. We filed lawsuits through the Freedom of Information Act and got her own testimony unlocked from the archives. She actually took the piece of skull and handed it to the doctors at Parkland Hospital and said, "Will this help?" The key to the film is the school book depository is back here toward the corner of the building, the corner of the street. If you watch closer, we're gonna have a blow up of the headshot. Now, if you're shooting from the rear, from the school book depository, and you hit someone in the back of the head is gonna go forward. So watch closely and you'll see it doesn't go forward, it goes backward with great force. Very dramatic. I even don't like watching it as many times as I've seen it, but it's evidence in the case. If you haven't got this film, then again, I wouldn't be here. This has convinced me that the shot that killed John Kennedy came from the front. The two motorcycle officers in the rear of the car were hit with so much brain and blood matter they thought they had been shot. They had to clean their uniforms off. But yet we were told that Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone assassin shooting from this window up here. It's totally ridiculous. Again, watch your hand. Reach up and grab it like that, pull it back. And even the doctor at Parkland Hospital she gave the piece of skull to, we have him on videotape saying that's what happened. All right, one more time, then we'll go to the next slide. See the little girl there? It's Phil Willis' daughter. She runs and stops when she hears the first shot, and that's how we know where the first shot occurred. She stops and turns and looks back to the school book depository, and that's where the first shot came from. In fact, we may see her again. There she is in the red dress and white coat. In the Oliver Stone film, she plays her mother, which Oliver tried to use a lot of the real people that were involved in there in Dealey Plaza in the film. You guys cut that one off.
Want me to take that one over there?
Yes, go ahead. Here's the motorcade coming down Main Street, fixing to make the right-hand turn onto Houston Street. Nellie Connolly, who's on the left in the front, had just turned to John Kennedy and said, well, you can't say the people in Dallas don't love you, Mr. Kennedy. And that was about 2 or 3 seconds before the first shot. Here he is. He's on Elm Street now, just before the Stemmons Freeway sign, just before the first shot. He's waving to the crowd on the right. And there's the Willis girl back up on top. Now this is it. He comes out from behind the sign, and he's been shot in the back, and then he's shot in the throat from the front. The doctors at Parkland Hospital found a bullet hole that nicked the tie right here in entry one. He's putting his hands up for the throat shot. On the right of the sign, the Stemmons Freeway sign, there's a man with an umbrella standing there. He's the only person at Dealey Plaza with an open umbrella. It's a bright, sunshiny day. There's no reason to have the umbrella open. And in front of him, to the right, is a dark-complected man in a beret. We call him the Cuban. As a matter of fact, Chris, point them out. There's the umbrella man. The Cuban is there. Now, these two people do very strange things in the plaza. As the car moves down and the shots ring out, that's the headshot. As the car comes from behind the Stemmons Freeway sign, Kennedy is shot in the back and shot in the throat, but he's not dead. The umbrella man takes the umbrella, and in the Zapruder film you can see it, he pumps it up and down as fast as he can. And then another shot rings out. As the car moves down about another 10 feet, The Cuban, Kennedy is still not dead. Conley was hit by that shot. The Cuban goes up with his fist like this, and then another shot rings out, and that's the head shot. Then Jackie crawled out on the back of the car. Everybody in the plaza drops down, starts running, screaming. There's 78 witnesses in the Dealey Plaza that said the shots came from the grassy knoll, but they were never called to testify for the Warren Commission. Approximately 40 to 50 of them run across the street, end up behind the fence to see where the shots came from. So everybody's basically in panic, except for the umbrella man and the Cuban. They come down and sit on the curb and sit side by side and talk to each other. We're back to Dealey Plaza. The Warren Commission said there were 3 shots from the 6th floor school book depository, because you can only shoot the Italian Cape 3 times in 5.5 seconds. So that, in January of '64, that was the conclusion. 1 shot hit John Kennedy in the back, 1 shot hit John Conley in the back, and 1 shot from the rear hit John Kennedy in the head. So 3 shots, no problems in 5.5 seconds. Now in January, late January of '64, a man named James Tague came forward and said, well, I was wounded in Dealey Plaza. And he was over by the triple underpass, standing by the post by his car, and he got hit in the cheek by a stray bullet. And we had a picture of him with blood on his cheek, and he made a report out that day. So we had the deputy sheriff's report and his testimony. So the Warren Commission had real problems at that time. They now had 4 shots. And if you had 4 shots, you had a conspiracy. So they reevaluated the shots. So the first shot came from the school book depository and hit James Tague in the cheek. The second shot came to the school book depository from 60 feet in the air, going down, and hit John Kennedy in the back. And then the bullet decided to come up. It made a curve and came up and went out his throat to explain the throat wound. And then made a right-hand turn for 18 inches. And then made a left-hand turn and stopped in midair for 1.5 seconds. And then started up again, and then hit John Conley in the back, broke 3 ribs coming out of his chest, fractured his right wrist, and then made a left-hand turn and embedded in the thigh bone of his left leg. Now that's shot number 2. That's why the researchers in the community call that the magic bullet, because it could have never happened. And if that's hard to believe, that's the bullet that did all the damage. Made 7 wounds in 2 men, and is basically untouched. There's more metal missing today from John Conley's wrist than is missing from this bullet, which is Commission Exhibit 399. Exhibit 399 is on the left. The other bullets are shot into cotton wadding, into cadaver's wrist, and into a goat carcass. The same type bullet. And you can see how badly they're damaged. CE 399 was found on a stretcher at Parkland Hospital that day. Some orderly had gone to the bathroom and it fell off on the floor. So they're saying that's the bullet that did all those wounds. Again, that's an x-ray of Conley's wrist showing the bullet fragments that are still in his wrist today. And the nick out of the top of the bullet is what the FBI took out for a metal test. So there really was no metal missing on the bullet at all. And there's a piece of fragment that was taken out of the wrist. So you can see it's absolutely absurd. Just never happened. But it made the 3 shots work. On the right is Officer Foster, and on the left is Deputy Sheriff Buddy Walters. And they're guarding the area by the storm drain. There's some grass that is pushed up, and there's a bullet there. And a photographer of the Star-Telegram in Fort Worth took pictures of all this, what was happening. In fact, there's a picture and then with a bullet in the grass, and there were witnesses that saw the grass heave up and told the officers about this. That's why they were there guarding the spot. Yes.
I think you could bring that mic up more. It's because I think the volume might.
Is that better?
Yeah, over here we're having a little different.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there's Buddy Walters looking down at the bullet in the grass. And on the right-hand side, comes a man in a suit and a sharp cut haircut, and reaches down and picks up the bullet he has in his hand here. And then he puts it in his back pocket and walks away, and that piece of evidence has never been seen. Totally, absolutely disappeared. Police Chief Curry identified him as an FBI agent. But there again, the evidence is gone. This is a picture of Lee Oswald on the cover of Life magazine in 1964, showing him with the weapons he used to kill John Kennedy and Officer Tippit. When Oswald was arrested in Irving, Texas, they found 2 photographs of Oswald with weapons in different poses. They brought the photographs to him and said, "How can you deny killing Officer Tippit and President Kennedy? Here you are with the weapons." He said, "What are y'all trying to do to me? That's a fake photograph." He said, "That's my head, but that's not my body." He said, "I'll show you how to do that. I know about photography." Of course, on Sunday, he was shot by Ruby and didn't show anybody anything. But if you take this particular photograph and you look at the shadow, the body shadow falls at 10 o'clock. Look at the one under his nose. It's straight up 12. It's a photographic impossibility. Here's another one of the poses. If you look at the rifle, it's pointing at about 11 o'clock on the clock. Look at it in the shadow. It's at 9 o'clock. The picture on the right is the blow-up of the Life magazine photograph, and if you look at the chin, see how fat and square the chin is? Well, this is Oswald's mugshot. The night of the assassination, he has a real pointed chin with a cleft in the middle. Doesn't even resemble his chin. And if you look real close, there's a cut line that goes all the way from the neck all the way across, where they've taken Oswald's head and stuck it on someone else's body with the weapons to incriminate him with the weapons. There's photography experts all over the world that have looked at the photograph and said it's a total fake. But yet it basically convicted him for the American people in front of Life magazine. I mean, I thought he was guilty. There again, another pose. Of the 2 backyard photographs, we did a red overlay on one of them with a different pose. We did one in green, the 2 different pictures. Then we overlaid them together, and nothing matched, which is not supposed to, because the cameras moved, the time, Marina didn't know how to work the camera, supposedly. Nothing matched but the head. The head matched exactly in both pictures. There we had the Cuban standing by the Stemmons Freeway sign with the open umbrella. And also the umbrella man, umbrella man behind him, the Cuban in front. The Stemmons Freeway sign is here on the left, and you can see the position of the umbrella by the sign. As the car moves down, the umbrella moves up on the sign as he's pumping it like this. There again, there's the throat shot. Now the Cuban's got his hand raised, and then in a minute he does his fist, and then we have another shot rang out after that. And like I said before, they sit down calmly, side by side on the curb, while everybody else is running, screaming. He lays the umbrella down by his side. If you look at the Cuban, it looks like he's talking on the radio. Has something up to his ear. There's a blow-up version of it. It's kind of highlighting what the blow-up is with the antenna back to the right. Now, in a few minutes they get up, the Cuban takes off and starts walking west down Elm Street, stuffing something in his back pocket. The umbrella man takes off and goes the other direction toward Houston Street. Again, he's stuffing something in the back pocket. Now this picture here we found 2 months ago. A friend of mine in California sent me a book on the Kennedy assassination, and this picture was one we'd never seen before. It's a scene at Parkland Hospital, and lo and behold, who's at Parkland Hospital leaning against Lyndon Johnson's car but the Cuban with a beret, and now he has cameras around his neck as a more or less a disguise to be there because there were photographers everywhere. There he is sitting on the curb, and here he is at Parkland Hospital. This man on the right in the coveralls is named James Hicks. He surfaced during the Garrison trial. It said he was a coordinator for the hit team. It said he had a walkie-talkie and tried to tell Garrison about what his role was. He was taken and put in a federal insane asylum, so he couldn't testify during the Garrison trial. And he was murdered 2 years ago up in Oklahoma. This is a series of pictures of Oswald. The one up here in the middle was on his passport. It looks a little bit like him, but yet it doesn't either. So photography experts in Fort Worth split his image right down the middle, made 2 rights and 2 lefts, and then put the 2 rights together and 2 lefts together and came up. And they did the same thing with his marine photograph. And this is the marine photograph with 2 lefts and 2 rights. It looks a little bit like Oswald in each one of them. But the one on the passport looks like this. Doesn't look anything like him. The one on the left's totally different. In 1961, J. Edgar Hoover put out a memo that we need to watch out, someone is using Lee Harvey Oswald's passport. These 3 men here were arrested behind the school book depository right after the assassination. We call them the 3 tramps. They're in old clothes, but the clothes were basically clean. They had on new shoes and they had pretty well nice haircuts. The front tramp we call Frenchie because he has a French cut coat on. The middle tramp we call the tall tramp, and the old man tramp we call, of course, the old man tramp. They were marched through Dealey Plaza and taken to the sheriff's department. The French, one we call Frenchie, this is a composite drawing on the right of one of the assassins of Martin Luther King. Again, we don't know who it is, but there again, certainly it is a close resemblance to the sketch. And the old man tramp is in the middle, and the images on both sides is E. Howard Hunt from Watergate fame. He was in Dealey Plaza in Dallas at the time of the assassination. Whether it's him or not, we just don't know for sure. The tall tramp is, which we'll show in just a minute, is Charles Harrelson, who killed Federal Judge Wood in San Antonio in 1982. When they went to arrest him, he was on cocaine, and moaning about he was involved in the Kennedy assassination, just went on and told a newspaper reporter that I'll tell you the real truth about what happened in our history. And the guy said, well, what do you mean what happened? He said, well, remember the date, November 22nd, 1963. And now he's in a federal prison. We did overlays with Harrelson red and green, And the hair matched, the chin matched, the ears matched, everything matched totally. We had a photography expert out of Florida that took the tall tramp and Harrelson's photographs. He said it was 99% accurate that the Charles Harrelson was the tall tramp. Plus he admitted being there. His son is Woody Harrelson on Cheers. There again, the ears match perfectly. This is my center in Dallas. There again, we have 3,000 square feet, an exhibit area, bookstore, and the research center's on the right. From the time we started this, about 3 years ago, we always felt that if we ever solved the case, someone would come walking through our door and tell us what happened. Because we had all these documents and all the evidence, but really no way to tell exactly what happened. The exhibit area is back behind that doorway. The guy in the middle is my partner, Gary Shaw, and Larry Harris is my other research coordinator. This was an article done about us in Texas Monthly Magazine. In April of last year, this young man named Ricky Don White came walking through our door. He said, "I think my father killed John Kennedy, and I want you all to prove he didn't, or he did. It's about to drive me crazy." And we said, of course, "Well, what proof do you have? You know what?" He said, "Well, I found my father's diary in 1982 in a Foot Locker in Paris, Texas, when my grandfather died. And in the diary told the participation of my father, whose code name was Mandarin, was the shooter behind the fence. And he worked for some type of program called the Rifle Program." Well, the first thing we asked him, "Well, let us see the diary." He said, "Well, I haven't got it." He said, "The FBI stole it from me in 1988 in my house." So there again, we thought it was just another kook that came through the door and with no evidence. He said, "Well, what else do you have?" He said, "Well, in the Foot Locker," sure, there again, that was the diary. Of course, they don't have it. That's his father's Foot Locker he found in '82, and his father's rifle. It's his father, Roscoe Anthony White, who joined the Marines in 1958. He was one of the top marksmen in his unit. We have all his military records. He was the very best at what he did. He was the best leader, best rifleman. And it just so happened that I said, "Your father is going to be implicated by the House Select Committee, is going to be accused of being the assassin of John F. Kennedy." And Ricky was not but 14, 15 years old and thought he was crazy, you know, just absolutely nuts. And sure enough, the House Select Committee didn't implicate Roscoe White. But the reason that Roscoe's name was even brought up during the House Select Committee was that the two backyard photographs that were found on Dealey Street with different poses, well, Roscoe White had a third one that no one had ever seen before. So now he had living on the same ship with Oswald. His mother worked for Jack Ruby. He worked for the police department. And Roscoe had a third backyard photograph of Oswald that no one else in the world had. What makes this man more interesting is the guy on the left was impersonating Oswald in Mexico City in 1963. These are pictures taken by the CIA at the Cuban embassy and the Russian embassy, which it resembles him a great deal. This guy was with Navy intelligence. Roscoe had a whole box of assassination pictures, and that's the third backyard photograph at the top that no one else had but Roscoe. The photographs he had were better than the Dallas Police Department had. Roscoe was a photography expert. He had his own darkroom. Again, that's the two that were found on Dealey Street, and then that's the third backyard photograph. Now, we had this photograph in our exhibit 3 years ago, but the caption underneath said just a Dallas police officer died, and his widow had the photograph, period. We didn't know any idea about who Roscoe White was, thought he died of old age. This is a picture in some of the belongings of Roscoe White there on the left. He was bald-headed, he wore a toupee. A photography expert at Fort Worth took Roscoe's body and superimposed it on the backyard photograph, and it fit exactly. The chin is the same, the body's the same, everything is perfect. So we now think that the body on that photograph is of Roscoe White, and it's Oswald's head. There was also a Derringer found in the footlocker, an Italian 22 Derringer. Roscoe gave it to his wife, said, "Keep this, this will be very valuable one of these days." Lee Harvey Oswald accidentally shot himself with an Italian 22 Derringer in the Philippines. There was a roll of unexposed film in the footlocker. About 7 or 8 years ago, a man came forward named Gordon Arnold, who said he was a soldier at the time and was standing in front of the stockade fence, and the shot nearly blew his right ear off. Said after the shots occurred, someone in a Dallas police uniform came around and took his film from him. On the canister of film, when Ricky brought it to us, was a piece of tape that said "military man" on the film. We took the film to Denver, Colorado, drove up there straight through and stood there while they developed the film, and it was totally, absolutely ruined. After all those years, there was no image on it at all. We were totally disappointed. Ricky remembered his father in the diary saying that he had left something, a container of some kind, with information in it. They had a lake house at Lake Whitney, Texas. He remembered his father and his mother remembered him burying something in the backyard. So in July, we go to Lake Whitney, Texas. We find the house, and we take a metal detector and shovel, and we start digging up the backyard. Well, it's solid rock. You dig down 2 inches, and you hit more rock. And the people weren't home. We had no idea who lived there. So the next day, we rented a backhoe, big yellow backhoe, and we dug the whole yard up. I have not been back, I assure you. We could put 2 swimming pools in it, and we didn't find anything, which made us disappointed. Again, we tried to fill it back up, and it ended up like this. You can't fill a hole back up. So there again, we were very dejected. We came back to the center and had the foot locker there and all the stuff, and there was a paper sack in the foot locker. And inside this paper sack was cedar bark. And there were cedar trees we were digging around at Lake Whitney, so we thought, well, maybe it has something to do with it. So we emptied the sack out, turned it inside out, and at the bottom of the sack, at the top, were the Roman numerals 30 by 10. And the little word at the top said Paris. And we had no idea what it meant. So Ricky called his mother, and he asked her, well, what would that mean? And she thought, and she said, well, your father built an add-on to your grandfather's house in Paris, Texas that was 30 by 30 by 30 by 10, and maybe that's what it is. So Ricky got in his Blazer and drove 90 miles to Paris and wouldn't let us go. At midnight, he goes in the house. Somebody tried to burn the house down. That's where he found the foot locker. So he was just about to give up. He crawled up on the sofa where the roof had caved in the living room, and got up and climbed in the attic. And he got his flashlight and was shining around, just about ready to leave, and something shined back at him. And what it was a metal container that used to hold Navy pistols that was hidden behind a piece of plywood, and just enough of it stuck out to shine back. So he went and picked it up and tried to open it, and it had a hermetically sealed top, and he couldn't open it. So he didn't come back to the center. He went all the way to Midland, Texas, where he lived, and waited till his wife left the next morning. And he sat in the living room, and he took the top off this container. And inside the container, wrapped in plastic, were the orders to kill John Kennedy that his father left. 3 decoded cables. Now, in April, he had told us that his father's code name was Mandarin, and he worked for some type of rifle program, because that's what it said in the journal. Well, of course, he didn't have that. And lo and behold, when we started to read the cables, code Mandarin, just like he said it was in the diary. And at the bottom, it says RE rifle. That was the program that his father worked for. Can you all read that? Let me try to focus it. What about now?
No, read it.
No, I meant to move out here to read it. It says foreign affairs assignments have been canceled. Your next assignment is to eliminate a national security threat to worldwide peace. Destination will be Houston, Austin, or Dallas. Contacts are being arranged now. Orders are subject to change. Check back if not understood. So at that point, it was dated August of '63. They didn't know which city was going to take place. Can you read that? Yeah, Dallas destination chosen, your place hidden within the department. That's when you got a job with the Dallas Police Department in October '63. Contacts are within this letter. Continue on this plan. RU rifle. In '78, the House Select Committee found out that the CIA had a hit team named ZR rifle that eliminated political opponents in foreign countries. The domestic program was RA rifle. And that was dated September '63. All right, this one is December '63. Can you read that one? To stay within the department, which means the police department, with the citizen eyes, ears, and noses. Mm-hmm. You who can't make out that word, the cables are real old, 28 years old. Due to the slip-up, the men will be in to cover all misleading evidence soon. Stay as planned, wait for further orders. So that's the 3 cables that were wrapped in plastic. Also in the container was Roscoe White's pictures of his mother and father, the negatives, which he and the only one had access to. A picture of Jack Ruby shooting Oswald, and a picture of the Warren Commission meeting. And there was something else in the container that Ricky didn't tell us was in there, but we knew it was there because part of it was embedded on the plastic of the cables. It was green, looked like some type of book. So we asked him, said, well, Ricky, why that was in there? Why didn't you tell us what was all there? He said, I don't want to. And what was in there was the witness elimination book that his father kept. He killed 28 people after the assassination. And in this book were newspaper clippings and coded numbers all through the book. But he was ashamed to give that to us. He said he could understand his father maybe killing Kennedy as orders, but to kill 28 innocent people after, he just couldn't handle that. So he kept it. About this time, I heard Oliver Stone was going to do a movie about the Kennedy assassination. So I faxed him a letter with about 15 different things that we knew at the center that no one else in the world really knew. And within 3 or 4 days, he called me, said, I want you to come to California and bring Ricky White with you and tell me what you know. So he flew us to LA. We went to his house. This is the green book that was in the bottom of the container, the witness elimination book. I called Ricky. I said, Oliver Stone wants us to come to California to talk to him. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I trust you more than anybody down there. I will give you the witness elimination book in California. I said, well, you do what you want to. You know, it's your thoughts in your mind. You have to do what you think's best. So we fly to California. This is in Oliver Stone's house. And then we get on an airplane to fly back to, this is one of the pages out of the book. Anybody that was dead was marked through. There's about 45 pages of different pictures and different kind of articles and different kind of coded numbers. We've yet to break the code. Coming back to DFW, our phones, we think, have been tapped since we moved in to the center because of what we do. we were coming into DFW's land, had the wheels down, in the 767 big Delta plane. And we started touching runway, we took off again, which is very unusual. I've come there hundreds of times and never done that. I told Ricky, well, something's wrong. So we circled the airport and landed a remote runway that I'd never even seen before. You couldn't even see the terminal, we were so far away. As we were coming down, he looked out the window, and there was ambulances and fire trucks all outside on the runway. So we hit the runway, and the stewardess came running through the plane, evacuate the airplane. So we went to the tail section and slid down the chutes, and 3 of the chutes didn't deploy on the airplane. There were 13 to 17 people injured getting off the airplane. A bomb threat was called in from the LA airport when we left, and the FBI searched the plane for 2 days through our luggage, everything we left on the airplane, but I took the green book down with me and my belt inside my pants, so we still have it. This is Roscoe White, about 1970, with his toupee on. He became religious. Told his pastor, Jack Shaw in Dallas, that he was a contract killer. He killed many people in foreign and also domestic soil, and he wasn't going to kill anymore. In 1971, he was called upon to do another job. He refused. He got a job as a welder. He went to lunch, came back and lit his welding torch, and someone put a 5-gallon container of liquid fuel underneath his workbench, and he blew up. It burned his nose off, his ears, his hands. He lived for 26 hours. Jack Shaw was at his bedside and Ricky when he died. And again, he stated, I've killed many people on foreign and domestic soil for my country. At the time, I thought it was right, but now I know it was wrong. Will God forgive me? And the man died. But he said, I'm a good family man, but I lead 2 lives. Here he is the other person who lived. He had his toupee. And that's the report on the fire and his death certificate where he burnt to death. So the Roscoe White story is totally, absolutely real. Since I found all this out, I've had 7 different people come to me that knew Roscoe. One, the daughter, her stepfather, worked with Roscoe and used to come over to the house all the time. And her father was a mortician. He was the top reconstructive expert in the world. And he was called to Parkland Hospital right after the assassination. And possibly was one of the ones that worked on Kennedy's head when they altered his body before he got to Bethesda, Maryland. I've got 5 other people that came to me that said they saw Roscoe White in J.D. Tippett's house. The Dallas police officer was slain. Another one was a bar owner that Jack Ruby introduced Roscoe to him in early '63. So I've got all kinds of evidence and documentation. The center was still working on the case. But this is someone that came forward and told what he knew of his father's participation, and he's basically destroyed his family. He's living in Midland, Texas, raising hogs. They don't have a telephone now. His wife is just totally fed up with the whole thing. And it's a true story. There's just too much there to deny what happened.
Like, can you tell about some of the witnesses, the Dorothy Kilgallen and
All right, I tell you what, that's basically all I'm going to show you. I had some slides on the movie, but since the media's here, I can't show them because I'm not supposed to. Show you one. Kevin Costner is playing Jim Garrison, and he's great. I worked with him for about a month and a half in Dallas. He wanted to make sure that what he was doing in the film was true, or he didn't want to do it. So he stayed with me and went through all the documents until he was convinced that this was a proper thing for him to do and a proper movie for him to get involved in. But between 1963 and now, there's approximately 300 witnesses that have died mysteriously. One of them, which he just brought up, was Dorothy Kilgallen. Remember, she used to be on What's My Line? She was one of the top newspaper reporters in the country. She was the only news person ever to get an interview with Jack Ruby alone. She went back to California told Joan Crawford she was gonna break the Kennedy assassination case wide open. And then the next day she died of an overdose. And all her records were gone, all her notes totally disappeared. Earl Warren and Gerald Ford came to Dallas to interview Ruby personally. They wouldn't let the investigators come. And Jack Ruby asked him 8 times, if you'll take me to Washington and protect me, I'll tell you why I killed Oswald. And Earl Warren told him that, Jack, we haven't got the power to get you out of the Dallas jail. And here he is, the head of the Warren Commission and the head of the Supreme Court. You couldn't get him out of the Dallas jail. And they didn't want him in Washington. There's a man that we found about 4 years ago. We teach a class on this at one of the colleges, and one of the girls works with deaf people. And her mother and father were friends with this man, and all through the years of friendship, he had told of seeing what happened in Dealey Plaza. So it took 1.5 years for him to get enough nerve to meet me in Dealey Plaza, and he's a deaf mute. And he was over on Stemmons Freeway, stuck in traffic, and was watching, and he happened to be in a position where he was could see behind the picket fence. And he saw the gunman shoot from behind the picket fence. Saw him take the gun, walk down the fence, and hand it to somebody in a railroad uniform. They broke the gun down, put it in a brakeman's bag, and walked away. He went to the FBI immediately, and they told him they didn't want to talk to him. Just couldn't talk anyway, but he wrote notes and tried to tell him what he said. And we filed for his FBI reports, and I've got a stack that thick. Everything he said he did. He even wrote a letter to Teddy Kennedy telling him what happened. I've got that letter, and I've got Teddy Kennedy's response back. So he's probably the most credible witness in this whole case, and he ended up being a deaf mute. But he was on the film, The Men Who Killed Kennedy, that was on the Arts and Entertainment's network last month. But a very credible witness. So I'm going to open it up to questions. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you. If you have any questions, if you have any questions,